Today we're rewriting the movie Wish because that movie was not it. You can call me Ama. Let's get into the problem I had with the movie first. I heard some people speculating that an AI bot made this movie, and though I don't think that's true, it totally sounds realistic because this movie just didn't have any soul in it. Got black people with no soul. But to be honest, the plot seemed kind of rushed and I just didn't connect with the character well, and I feel like they could have done so better because the actual concept seemed interesting. I was so mad when I figured out that the star that she was talking to was actually supposed to be a real boy, like he was supposed to turn into a boy, and I thought that would be so interesting. So I'm like, why did you remove that? I wasn't gonna let that fly. I had to, sometimes you want a job done right, do it yourself. And I wanted to stick to the original plot of the story, just adding some things in here and bringing a better climax to the story. Funny thing, we learned literally nothing about her character, our main girl. Her name is Asha, but I only knew this because I googled her name. I barely even hear her name throughout the whole movie. Like, I know nothing about this girl. I don't even know her hobbies. I also wanted to give her friend group more personality, but I kind of ended up writing those munchkins out. No offense to them though. Without further ado, also this is my makeup for the video. This is supposed to be very Wish inspired. You see the purple? This is supposed to be a star. Listen, don't forget about it. Without further ado, here is my rewrite. The movie starts off just how the original was, where they're telling the tale on how this kingdom we see is created, how it originated. So I'm gonna explain it. If I get it wrong, I'll just play it. To be simplistic, a king got powers, mastered it, and used the power of wishes to create a kingdom, create homes for people, and now he's using his powers for good by granting people's wishes. That's how people have migrated to the island, and everybody loves him, and he's doing well for himself. That's what they want you to think. That's what everyone believes, and Asha believes it as well, and she's so inspired by the king's story. She's like, I want to do the same thing he's doing. She lives middle class in the kingdom. She's not doing well. She's not doing particularly really well for herself, but she's not doing bad at all. She has a big friend group. She's quite popular. A lot of people like her. And so she's chilling. She really doesn't have anything to wish for. So she wants to do that for other people. She wants to provide wishes. She wants to grant them at a better rate because both her parents are in her life in the story. Both her parents, they never got their wish granted. So she wants to do that for them. As well as her best friend, who they made a pact that when she becomes a wizard or a witch and she grants wishes, that she would be the one to grant the wish for the friend. And so that was their little thing that bonded them. I'm gonna let you guys name the friend in the comments below because I didn't choose a name for her. I didn't even get into character design for a second. I'm sorry, guys. Our girl, we not doing the braids. At first, I wanted to keep the braids and just make it more fancy, make it cuter. But no, we're scrapping it. She's just getting a normal bun because I think that would look really cute. I have an AI image made of her. So this as an example, this is how I want her to look in her Disney outfit. And I'm going to show, this is her typical outfit as well. Let editing do its thing. She aspires to become an apprentice for the king, and she's been training for it all her life. And what does that training consist of? Because she wants to be an apprentice, but she never actually shows how she's going to do that. She doesn't show any work ethic, and there's no training. How do you train to grant wishes? So in this one, I thought it'd be nice to make it more of a spiritual thing. You have to get in your zen, you have to meditate to access the wish realm, the realm to take wishes and turn it into something magical. And that's what the king's been teaching. He's saying, shows himself as this very unselfish person. He's like, listen, if you want to do what I can do, all you have to do is meditate to access this realm, and you can create wishes for yourself, but it takes a lot of skill and mastery. But he's the only one who could do it. But Asha, she has worked really hard for this, and she seems to be able to access the magic realm to create these wishes. But she can't create them, but she can see wishes around her. She's almost capable of doing what the king can do. It is the day that the king chooses an apprenticeship. And surprisingly, not surprisingly, people don't want to grant wishes, people want to make wishes. No one else shows up for the apprenticeship besides 10 to 5 people. And the main people of significance are Asha and this other boy. They end up making the final 2. Now, this other boy is their childhood rivals, their frenemies, if you would. They both want to become the apprentice of the king, and both for the reasons to provide wishes to everyone. And I was fleshing out his reason more, but it's more of just this rivalry they both have for each other, and mainly him, he has for her. And he kind of has a small itty bitty crush on her, but regardless, he wants to become a wish maker. He wants to provide wishes to the community. And so they end up being the final 2. And drumroll, Asha wins. Asha ends up becoming the king's apprentice. When this is announced to the guy, I'll let you guys name him in the comments, but today we're gonna call him, let's go with Damien. Derek, no. Drake, let's call him Drake. Locked in. Drake is very heartbroken about the whole situation on losing, because this is what he also wanted to do. And so he's leaving the castle. This is where the final tests were conducted. And Asha wins, and she's going to be announced as the king's apprentice. But then Drake, as he's leaving, I guess the king thought he wasn't there or something, but he overhears the king talking to a business partner, an associate, and the king is joking. King Magnifico is his name. I don't know any of these characters' names. That is the problem. That is the problem. What we get out of the eavesdropping from Drake, out of the king's conversation, is that the king was not in it for the greater good. He's not casting most of these people's wishes. In fact, it's a lose-lose situation, because he's typically only providing wishes to the already rich in his in the community. He's granting them a wish, and they're promoting him to society and saying, yes, this is the guy that's going to grant all your wishes, when really the truth is the main wishes that get granted always somehow go back to the same people. And every now and then he'll give a peasant a gift or a wish granted, but usually he doesn't, and he does it like once a year or like once a month. So clearly it's like hitting the lottery. You will never have your wish granted. And the king has been using this farce about how it's very exhausting. It takes a lot of energy to grant wishes, to keep up with the fact that he will never grant your wish. Yeah, what Drake gets from this conversation is that there's a lot of corruption in this whole business, and he realizes the king was never going to help anyone out. Now, if you're wondering if the king can't just wish for things himself, it's because everyone gets one wish. And I'm going to explain how the king actually grew his power later on down the road. Matter of fact, I'm going to just tell you right now. So the king grew up poor, and he wanted power. And so that's what he wished for. He said he wished for power. And that's what the shooting star, he was still on a shooting star, and that's what it gave him. It gave him a kingdom where he ruled, but the star landed with it. So he has the shooting star that gave him all this power, but you can't use a wish again. You can't ask for another wish. And so still he kept it. And he realized that he could in fact grant other people's wishes. And he actually did do some meditation. He was a wizard of sorts, and he was able to connect with people's wishes and actually take them. Because most people cannot take a wish, but he can. He can take your wish and he can make it into a reality, as long as it's not, as long as he didn't wish it. He can do it for other people. So he's giving, or that's what people thought. But he still had his kingdom and he still wanted power, but he couldn't wish for it. And so he just had other people just promoting him and making sure that his kingdom and his people stay loyal to him, reiterating this story about, you can come here, you can come to this land, and you can have any wish you want granted. But usually it will never happen for you. It is rare, it will never happen, and that's the truth of this land. So anyway, getting back to Drake, he hears this and he's like, oh shoot, the king is not a good man as he says he is. So he runs over to Asha, who's about to leave the kingdom, and she's so excited to tell everyone that she won this position. And he's stammering, he's stuttering, he can't get a coherent sentence out. And she's so confused and she's getting impatient, but she's hearing some keywords about the king not being who he said he is. And so she confronts him herself. So later on, she's like, King, listen, I've been hearing what Drake's been saying and it don't sound right. It seems like what you're trying to do is, and she gives some keywords, but the minute she starts talking, the king slams the door. He's like, oh no, you're not going to get a peep out about this to anyone else. And she realizes that, oh shoot, Drake is actually serious. The king is actually, he seems to be up to no good. But pretty much the king comes clean, not fully about how he's having all these people promote him, but he's like, yeah, most of these wishes won't get granted, but I'm keeping the peace. I'm giving people hope that their dreams will come true. And she's like, no, you should give them back, because these people, they don't have their wishes anymore. If you're not going to grant them, what is the point on doing all this? So she's not getting with him, and he's trying to bribe her with power. He's like, listen, if you just do what I say, if you follow my lead, I will give you power. You can be the richest in the kingdom alongside me. I can make you my successor. You can take over when I'm gone. Like, I can do all this. And she's like, no, she has family who will never get their wishes granted. She's like, this is corruption and I'm not having any bit of it. The king, he's obviously not going to take that. He's like, okay, so that's how you want to be. He's giving her a warning, but he's threatening her. And so Asha runs away. She's out of there. She's like, oh my gosh, the king is evil. Before she runs off, the king's like, listen, if you try and mess me up, if you try to go against me, you will be dealt harshly. You will get what's coming to you. Hold on, let me check my notes. So no one's taking Asha seriously. And so it's not like she's gotten kicked out by her parents, but she goes deeper into town, the parts that people tend to not go to or tend to not recommend going to. And something alarming is what she sees, because this community of people that are a part of the kingdom, they walk with a sense of purposelessness. They kind of seem like shells of human beings. It's like they're just sitting there soulless, and it's because they gave away their wish. And this is the dark side of giving away your wish. If it's not granted, then you act like that. It's like you're gray. You have no color. It's depressing. And Asha's looking at this and she's horrified. She's like, oh, this is what is happening. This is why. This is the dark side of it. This is the parts that the king didn't want to see, didn't want you to see. And there she meets a smaller community, an even smaller community, and they are the rebels. They are going against the king, and the king has identified them to the public as these very violent people that want to steal all your wishes. They want to take it away because they want all the power and all the wishes. And you need to stay away from these people because they're evil and they steal wishes. And that is simply not true. And so Asha finally meets them. And she has vaguely heard about these people from the king, but now she's getting to see them firsthand. And she's like, okay, so these are them people. And they talk about their experience, and they're like, so yeah, you now know the king is corrupt. And Asha's like, yeah. And so some of these people have color, which means like they didn't give away their wish. Others have color while still giving away their wish. Either they haven't become like that yet, or they found a new purpose, which was to take down the king. And so other people are gray. They kind of seem like shells of people, but they're still a part of the rebellion against the king. But it's still because they gave away their wish. So there's lots of people who have reasons for being against the king and this method. He goes about granting people blessings and everything. And so Asha learns more about them, and she stays with them. They give her some wisdom, and she doesn't know what she's going to do. She's like, oh shoot, this is the reality of the world I live in, and I have no idea what I'm going to do. But before she can just think about what's her next step going to be, guards come and raid the whole area. And so they're looking for the rebels, and they're also looking for Asha. And so the rebels try to defend against them while they tell Asha to go and get out there, because the guards are mainly after her, because the king was like, you know what, I'm gonna take this girl out because I don't want her talking to none of my business to nobody. And so she runs into the forest to escape, just like in the story, but she doesn't escape in the story. But in my version, she runs to escape, but she's now in the forest, and she's breaks into her musical number maybe, but she wishes upon a star. She asks for a wish. She's like, I just really need a friend right now. And it was like her wish. And so she was like, I really wish to have a friend right now. And so a star comes from the sky and lands right there to grant her wish. And it turns into a boy, because that's the friend she needed. Like her friend is here. And so they start talking, and she's like, oh my gosh, wishing upon a star is real. And you can see all his magical tricks he has. So he has some shape-shifting abilities. He can shape-shift into anything. He's very floaty, so he'll fly around. He'll be walking, and then he'll switch to a bird and then keep talking. And he's very startling to her. And so she doesn't like all this power. She's like, oh my gosh, this is scary. And she's now, ever since the whole king's reality betrayal thing, she's like, I can't trust anyone. And so she's very scared when she first meets him, and she doesn't know how to act in front of him. But eventually he gains her trust enough for them to talk. And so I was thinking about how I wanted their dynamic to be. And I think it's more like he kind of teases her with his magic and just startling her. He likes to scare her, and she wants to take it seriously. She wants to focus on the bigger picture, and he kind of makes light of situations. So they have a funny dynamic, and so far the goat is actually still in the story. I just want to make him funny, and so I was thinking how I could do that. I was thinking maybe he could ship them together and make jokes about them being together, or maybe the goat could just make jokes about how humans are silly and why do they need wishes, like I'm satisfied with eating grass. And so that they go they're trying to come up with a plan to take down the king because she sees the actual problem, the consequences of these powers and using them and taking people's wishes without granting them. So she wants to expose this to the public. So they come up with a plan to go into the king's study and take whatever can incriminate the king. And so they sneak in. The plan was, because he can kind of form things out of his hands, very minor things he can just manifest. And so he manifested a recording tool, and they were going to use that to record the king when she confronts him again and expose it to the public. So that's what they do. They break into the king's study. The king catches them just in time, and then she tries to trick him by talking. Oh, and scratch that. While they are coming in, before the king is almost there for the confrontation, and then the star boy is going to record, she mentions a star that the king has in his study, and she was like, maybe we should take that too, so it could take away a source of power. And the star boy is shocked. He's like, oh shoot, you mean a star? And he's like, there's a star here. And so that's all he can think about the whole time. And she's like, can we focus on the bigger picture? So she tries to confront the king, and the dude is not even recording this. And he's like, the king finally catches on. He's like, we gotta get them. And so he finally gets his guards to subdue them. And they're like, oh no. And they finally get arrested, and she's like, why didn't you just record? We could have ran out and had the time if you had actually recorded, and then we could have escaped in time. But now we're locked up in a cell. And he finally tells her what it means to be a star, a shooting star, and like the world he lives in, and how it's kind of up in the sky, but there's magic, and it's just a community of people, and they have this very intimate connection, all one of them. Even if they haven't met, it's kind of like they have met, because all the stars, they're kind of people, and they're a hive mind. And so a star missing is like his sister, his brother. And so he's like, oh shoot, there's a star that has been taken, and I need to help this star. And she finally sees the importance and what he means. And this is the first time he takes something really seriously in this situation. And she's like, I will help you free this star human person. I want to help you. And so they're like, well, we're chained up in the king's cellar, and the only reason why we're still alive is because the king wants to use us as an example, and use us and paint us as villains for going against him. So Asha does not pay this man any mind. She is already going to tell her friends and family what she has discovered. She's like, Mom, Dad, listen, the king is evil. He is not granting your wishes. But the parents know they're not getting their wishes back, and they're like, listen, I'm not going to believe that, because they need hope. They don't have their wishes anymore. They can't even remember them. They're sitting in a kind of a ball of purposelessness, but at the same time being happy. And they're like, that is not what I'm trying to hear. I'm sure you misunderstood it. And that's the same thing that's what happens to her friend. She's like, no, I'm sure you misunderstood. The king would never do that. She's trying to remain loyal to the king. And what hurts the friend the most is that they made a pact that she would grant her wish. And so she's been holding out on this wish for a while. Like, her friend's older. Asha is 17, and her friend's about to turn 19 soon. And she's like, I've been holding out on this wish for you because I wanted you to I want you to have me be the first person you're going to grant a wish for. I wanted us to have this moment. And you're saying that these wishes are bad, these wishes are evil. I'm not trying to hear that. And so she kind of gives her the cold shoulder. And I was just like, wow, I'm really on my own here. Meanwhile, I bet you guys are wondering what is Drake doing. And so far, after Drake told Asha about the king tried to use Drake as a replacement for Asha. And he was like, Asha has betrayed. And listen, Asha refused to accept my generosity, that I can make you powerful and I can help you. And you can be my successor. I don't mind. And you can have all this power, all the power in the world, just under me. And all you have to do is hunt down Asha. I need you to find her. Because he knows him. And he needs a loyal henchman to do this service for him. And so the guy, Drake, is like, he's thinking about this, he's contemplating, and he takes some time, but eventually he ends up not betraying, because they were kind of rivals at the start anyway, but he ends up going after Asha. So the reason why, when she met the fugitives and the rebels, and she had to run away because the guards found her, it was because he went looking for her. He led the guards to her. Not that he knew where she was, but he organized the hunting for her. And so far, Drake is now guarding the cell of the Starboy and Asha. And she's like, please, Drake, I just need you to get us free. Like, you know this is wrong. You know that the king is evil and you can't be as bad as him. I know we never really got along that well, but I know you're not as bad as him. You're a good person. And Drake is hearing this and he's like, it's hurting his heart and he doesn't know what to do. And so he says nothing, and they go up, on the whole. Yeah, I'm just going to show a picture. They're right here. And the king is about to make an example of Asha and the Starboy. He's like, these are some fugitives who have been using witchcraft and casting spells to steal people's wishes and use them for power. He's painting them as these villains, and Asha's friends and families in the crowd, and they're like, really? Is this really true? Can all these people the king's been telling us are these evil people really be evil? Also, my makeup looks good. And so they're just watching in awe as the king is like, yeah, these people are dangerous and you need to stay away from them. And in the meantime, Asha is kind of tied in these chains. Not. Why is Asha black? Okay, so Asha, she's got her hands tied up and she's like on her knees or something. And while the Starboy is in a box because he's a shapeshifter and he can kind of squiggle through these small things. And so they're both sitting there very depressed. And so Asha was hoping, she was planning that she could just scream out that the king's a liar, that she could call him all these bad things. But she has something tied to her mouth. It's like a gag or something, so she cannot speak. But she kind of wiggles it off and she's like, the king is a liar. He cannot grant wishes. He uses a power source in his castle to grant wishes. He cannot grant anyone any power. And he's like, oh, really? He's like, oh, really? Well, I'll prove it to you. And he grants someone's wish in the crowd. And he's kind of taking a while too, because he doesn't really want to grant someone's wish, so that gives them power. So he grants insignificant ones. But he looks around the crowd, he sees everyone's wish, and he takes the ones that he has. He's like feeling out each wish, and he's like, yeah, I'll grant 3 right now. It'll take a lot of energy, guys, though. So no, I cannot be doing this all the time. And so the king grants 1 wish, and Asha's in awe. She's like, how is he able to grant wishes without being near the star he has locked up in a cage or something to use as a power source for his magic? But that's when she looks around, and on his throne is a star, and she realizes that he hid his power source in plain sight on his throne. And so all she has to do is set free the star. So that's when Asha comes up with a plan. Keep in mind, the gag gets put back on and she's still tied. And so she has to finally use her powers for the greater good. And so she closes her eyes, she gets in Zen, she meditates, and she's able to kind of be in the mind, be with the star boy there. And she kind of sees, like, in his mind, he's like crying. He's like, we're gonna die, and I let Asha down, I let the people of the kingdom down, and worst, like, I let my people down too. Like, the star, the other star, she could be free, but she's a girl, but she's a star shape, so we don't really know, but he does because it's his people. And so it's like she's like a sister to him, and he's like, I'm so sorry. He's kind of crying. He's like, I'm so sorry I couldn't help you, in his mind. And Asha kind of is able to take a wish out of that. He's like, I wish I could have saved you. I wish I could have saved you. And so Asha, finally, she has the power source. It is him. And she uses that source to set the other star free. And so she comes out of the throne, and it's a star girl, and she ends up trying to use her powers to fight off the king. And she's they're all fighting. She breaks Asha free, she breaks the star boy free, and finally the king's like, I'm going to kill this star girl. He's kind of like, that's it, everyone back up before I stab her. He's like, everyone back off. And so everyone stops, and they don't know if he's going to harm the other star person, the star girl. And that's when Drake comes in, and he's like, no, king, that's not what you're going to do. We're not letting this happen. Your reign of terror is over, and I'm not helping a bad guy. And so the king is defeated. Drake gets like the final blow in, but not like a kill. The king gets sent to jail. But the guy is able to stop. Drake is able to take the final shots to stop the king, and all is saved. The land is saved. Everyone's happy. People's wishes are returned. Asha returns the wishes, and in return, there's like a big ceremony in her honor, and in the Starboy's honor, and Drake's honor, but mainly in Asha's honor, because come on, she did all this, and they're all celebrating. They're like, thank you, we're so happy. And so she kind of gets her Disney princess moment there. She gets a big flowy dress, and after that, they're all good. The Starboy and Stargirl has to go back to their world, but in the credits, you see that they come down like whenever they want to go and see her, to meet her, and to just catch up. And so they kind of have a relationship, but they're not official, but there's some ships there. There's also minor ships with her and Drake, so it's up to anyone's decision how you would want to go about the romance. It's undetermined in the end, but that's Asha's story, and that's Wish, the movie. And so tell me what you guys think in the comments. Thank you so much for hearing me ramble for so long. I love you guys, and have a wonderful day. Tell me in the comments what you think, and name the characters.